if you are an employer where you have over 25 employees, 25 or more, or if you do work at an organization where there's 25 people or more in the province of Ontario, as it is the first province in Canada that has done this, will essentially under Premier Doug Ford in his last term, they put together a right to disconnect for employees and for workers. And what this means is that this came about for work-life balance, essentially during COVID-19, as people were working from home and working, and when you work from home, I guess it blurs the lines of when you should be in the office and when to continue or to stop your work, whether that takes on until later on Friday evening or throughout the weekend. Well, Monty McNaughton, who was minister in the last term when it came to labor, he essentially put together an act that manages all of that, and the right to disconnect is essentially this. So as of June 2nd, this was just last Thursday, so it takes into effect today. Employers in Ontario with 25 or more employees should have a written policy that will respect their employees being able to disconnect outside of business hours. So what is considered business hours for a workplace, it is outside of that. So whether if it's at 5 o'clock on a Friday and that's after business hours and until business hours start again on Monday at 9 a.m., if that's the case in the workplace, then that means after 5 p.m., that employee has the right not to answer emails, phone calls, messages, or anything that is work-related until it's business hours again on Monday in that scenario. So this is under the Working for Workers Act. It was passed in 2021. It is the first law of its kind in Canada. It started in France, and some other countries took note, such as Italy and Slovakia, and Ontario is the first to do the same. Essentially, this legislation explains that disconnecting from work means not engaging in work-related communications. So that is the emails, telephone calls, video calls, reviewing or sending messages, and so anything that has to do with the performance of work. And this is what Minister Monty McNaughton in the last term, who was the Ontario Labour Minister, said that this is to make sure that it doesn't continue what has started during COVID-19, where there is no start or stop to the work hours, and people need to be able to spend time with their family and to be able to disconnect from work, to be able to, when they go back on working hours, and they can give it their full self and not be weighed down with the burden of having to work when they're not required to. This is since this law has been put into place, it was required that as of January 1st of this year, there must be written policy, and the deadline would have been June 2nd. And beginning 2023 next year, all employees with 25 or more employees must have a policy in effect by March of next year. So this is a roll into this law taking effect. Essentially, Quebec, the province of Quebec, and the federal government have talked about this, but they have yet to table legislation regarding this. And this law that's now in place, failure to comply with these new rules could be enforceable under the province's Employment Standard Act. So that's what that means for Ontario and for workplaces with 25 or more employees.